It was a cold evening. The wind blew dust across the empty road. Cars rushed by without slowing down. People were in a hurry to get home. But one car stood still. A shiny black Mercedes was stopped at the side of the road. Its hazard lights blinked, but no one paid attention. Inside the car sat a well-dressed woman. Her name was Victoria. She looked rich, confident, and important. But at this moment, she was scared. Her car had a flat tire, her phone had no signal, and night was coming fast. She looked outside. No one stopped. No one cared. Her hands shook as she sat alone in silence. Then, far in the distance, someone appeared. A man. He wore old shoes, a faded jacket, and carried a plastic bag. His face looked tired. His name was Darius. He had just finished a 12-hour shift at a warehouse. He was walking home because he couldn't afford the bus. His stomach was empty, but his heart was full of love for his little daughter, Hope, waiting at home. As Darius passed the car, he slowed down. He noticed the woman sitting inside, looking worried. For a moment, he thought of walking past. "It's not my problem," he whispered to himself. But something in his heart pulled him back. He turned around and knocked gently on her window. Victoria jumped, startled. She rolled it down halfway. "Yes," she said, her voice cold. "Evening, ma'am," Darius said politely. "Looks like you've got a flat." Victoria looked him up and down. He didn't look like someone she trusted. He was poor, black, tired-looking. She held her purse a little tighter. "I'm fine," she said quickly. Darius nodded. "All right, just thought I'd offer help. I change tires all the time." He started to walk away. Then Victoria sighed. Her pride dropped. "Wait," she called out. I don't know how to change it." Darius smiled gently. "No problem." Without asking for anything, he dropped his bag and got to work. He didn't complain. He didn't ask questions. He just helped. The road was dark now, and cars kept flying past, but Darius stayed focused. Victoria sat inside watching. His hands moved fast, but with care. After 20 minutes, it was done. "All fixed," he said, wiping his hands on his shirt. She stepped out and looked at the tire. It was perfect. Darius picked up his bag again and nodded politely. "You're good to go." "Wait," she said. She opened her wallet and pulled out some cash. "Here, take this. For your time." Darius shook his head. "I didn't help you for money." She looked surprised. Then, "Why did you?" He looked at her, eyes calm. "Because if my daughter was stuck somewhere one day, I hope someone would help her too." He turned and began to walk away. Victoria stood there frozen. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She looked at the money in her hand, then at the man disappearing into the night. Something inside her shifted. She quickly took out her phone and snapped a photo of him walking away, his back straight, his steps slow. She didn't know why, but something told her. This wasn't the last time she would see this man. Narrator voiceover, optional for YouTube use. He walked away, not knowing he had just changed her life. No fancy words, no promises, just kindness, pure and simple. And sometimes, that's all it takes to start a story that changes everything. Victoria sat by her bedroom window, staring into the night. The city lights twinkled in the distance, but her heart felt heavy. She held her phone in her hand, staring at the photo she took earlier that evening, the back of a man walking away with a plastic bag in one hand and dignity in the other. She zoomed in slightly. His jacket was torn. His shoes were old, but his back was straight. His walk was calm. She couldn't stop thinking about him, not because he helped her, but because he didn't ask for anything in return. In her world, people always had a price. She had learned that lesson the hard way. 2 months ago, her husband left her for a younger woman, a man she trusted, loved, and built a life with had walked out without warning. He left her with millions in the bank, but zero in the heart. Since then, she'd been pretending, smiling at parties, posting happy pictures online, but crying herself to sleep every night. She had money, but she had no peace. And then, today, in the middle of nowhere, came a poor man with kind eyes, who helped her like it was the most natural thing in the world. And when she offered money, he said no. Because if my daughter was stuck one day, I hope someone would help her too. Those words wouldn't leave her mind. Who was this man? What kind of father raises his child on kindness when the world is so cold? Victoria opened her laptop and started searching. She typed, "Man helps woman on highway, refuse money." Nothing came up. Of course it didn't. He didn't even give her his name. She zoomed in again on the photo. No face, just a side profile. But something caught her eye. On his jacket's back, near the collar, she saw faded letters. Warehouse 19. A clue. The next morning, she called one of her drivers and asked, "Can you find out where Warehouse 19 is?" The driver was confused. "You want me to find a warehouse?" She nodded. "Yes, and fast." Later that day, she stood across the street from a large, noisy warehouse in a dusty industrial area. Workers in uniforms moved in and out, lifting boxes, driving forklifts, shouting over machines. And then she saw him. Same jacket, same walk. It was him, Darius. But now, he looked even more tired. Sweat covered his forehead. He looked at his watch, then started walking toward the bus stop. Victoria quickly got into her car and followed, keeping a distance. Darius got off 3 stops later and walked into a small, rundown building. She waited. 10 minutes passed. Then she stepped out and approached the building. There was a broken nameplate that read, "Room 5, D. Thomas." She knocked gently. The door opened halfway. A little girl peeked out. She had big brown eyes, messy hair, and a soft smile. "Hello," Victoria smiled. "Hi there. Is her dad home?" The girl nodded and ran inside. "Daddy, someone's here." Darius came to the door, surprised. His eyes widened when he saw her. "You? I hope I'm not bothering you," she said softly. He looked embarrassed. No, just, I wasn't expecting." He stepped outside, gently closing the door behind him. "How did you find me?" "Your jacket," she smiled. "Warehouse 19. He smiled, shyly. "I didn't expect anyone to care." "I do," she said. "I haven't stopped thinking about you since yesterday." He looked down, unsure what to say. "You helped me," she continued. "But more than that, you reminded me that people like you still exist." Darius shook his head. "Ma'am, I just did what anyone should do." She looked into his eyes. They were tired, but honest. Worn out, but warm. "You said something yesterday about your daughter." He nodded slowly. "That was her?" "Yes. Her name is Hope. She's all I've got." Victoria smiled. "She's beautiful." He looked at the door behind him. "She's everything." Victoria paused. "May I ask something personal?" He nodded. "Why did you refuse the money?" Darius took a deep breath. "Because I don't want my daughter to grow up thinking you only help when there's something to gain. If I want her to believe in good people, I have to be one." Those words hit her harder than she expected. She reached into her purse, then stopped. Not for money, but for something more valuable. A small card. "My name is Victoria Harris. I run a company downtown. If you ever need anything, call me." He hesitated. She gently placed the card in his hand. "I'm not offering charity. I'm offering respect. And maybe, someday, a way to give back." Darius looked at the card, then at her. "Thank you," he said, "for seeing me." She nodded. "Thank you for showing me how to feel again." She turned to leave. Hope peeked out again from behind the door. Victoria waved and smiled. Hope waved back. And in that tiny wave, something powerful passed between them. A connection. A new beginning. Darius woke up before the sun. The room was small, quiet and cold. A weak light from the street lamp outside slipped through the curtains. He turned off the old alarm clock beside his mattress and looked to his right. His daughter, Hope, was still asleep. Her little hands clutched a stuffed rabbit. She had no idea the world outside was tough. She only knew her daddy's love, his warm hugs, and bedtime stories. Darius got up slowly. His back ached. He had worked double shifts for 5 days straight. He looked at his hands, rough, cracked, tired. But he smiled, because no matter how hard his life was, she was worth it. 7 years ago, Darius's life had been very different. He had dreams. He wanted to start his own car repair shop. He even saved money for it. He had a wife, a small apartment, a plan. But then, everything changed. His wife died during childbirth. Complications. Doctors said they tried their best. Darius didn't cry in the hospital. He just held his newborn daughter and whispered, "I'll never let you go." Since that day, it had been just the two of them. And life didn't make it easy. He lost his job after the garage closed. He couldn't pay the full rent, so he and Hope moved into a one-room unit in an old building. The ceiling leaked. The heater barely worked. But it was home. He found work at a warehouse. The hours were long. The pay was small. Still, every night, he made sure Hope had something to eat. Sometimes just bread and soup. But he always smiled, saying, "Tonight's a feast, baby girl." Hope would laugh and say, "You're the best chef, Daddy." And that's all he needed to hear. Hope was a bright child. She loved school. She read every book Darius could bring her from the library. Her favorite was a story about a girl who became a doctor to help her sick mother. One night, she looked up at him and said, "Daddy, when I grow up, I'll be a doctor too. Then you won't have to worry anymore." Darius hugged her tight. She didn't know he already worried, every single day. 3 weeks ago, Hope started coughing at night. At first, he thought it was just a cold, but then she got tired faster. She didn't want to eat. Her teacher called and said Hope had fainted in class. Darius rushed her to the hospital. After tests, the doctor said it might be something more serious. They needed more scans, more treatment. But Darius didn't have the money. He smiled and nodded at the doctor, but inside he was breaking. He couldn't tell Hope. He didn't want her to be scared, so he acted normal, told her everything was fine, and held her hand every night until she slept. But after she closed her eyes, he cried. Not loudly, just silent tears on the floor of their room. That was the night he met Victoria. He had just finished another shift. He was tired, hungry, and thinking about Hope's medicine. And then he saw the rich lady on the road. He could have walked past. Many others did. But he didn't. Because deep in his heart, Darius believed the world needed more kindness, even if the world didn't always give it back. And maybe, just maybe, if he gave enough good to the world, someday it would come back for Hope. That next evening, after Victoria's surprise visit, Darius sat on the floor with his daughter. He didn't tell her about the rich woman who came to find them. He didn't say she offered help. He just listened to Hope as she colored pictures. "Daddy," she said suddenly, "today, I drew our dream house." She held up a piece of paper. On it was a drawing of a little house with a garden, a swing, and a sun in the corner. "See, that's your room, and that's mine. And that's the kitchen where you'll cook pizza every day." Darius smiled. "It's beautiful, baby." Then she added, "And that's the doctor's room. So when I get sick, they can help me right at home." Darius's smile faded just a little. He looked at the picture, then at his little girl's face. She didn't know they were barely surviving. She didn't know he had skipped meals so she could eat. She didn't know the hospital had called again today, asking when he could pay for the next test. She didn't know her daddy was running out of strength. But she believed, and that belief kept him going. Later that night, when Hope was asleep, Darius sat alone. He pulled out Victoria's business card and stared at it. He had never asked for help before, never begged, never borrowed. But now, for Hope, maybe he had to. He held the card tight. Maybe, just maybe, life was giving him one more chance. The next morning, Darius stood outside a tall glass building in the city. He looked up at it like it was a mountain. The building was clean, bright, and busy. Expensive cars were parked outside. People in suits walked in and out, holding coffee cups, talking into phones. He looked down at his own shoes, old, dusty, cracked at the sides. He almost turned around. But then he remembered Hope's drawing, the dream house, the garden, and the doctor's room. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out the small card Victoria had given him, and looked at her name again. Victoria Harris, CEO, Harris Interiors. This wasn't his world, but she had invited him. So he took a deep breath and walked in. The receptionist looked up, surprised to see him. "Can I help you, sir?" Darius held out the card. I was told to come here. By Ms. Victoria. She glanced at the card, then at him. Her eyes softened a little. "Wait here." Minutes later, Victoria appeared at the top of the stairs. She was wearing a navy blue suit, confident, calm. But when she saw Darius, her face lit up. She walked down quickly. "You came." Darius nodded. "I hope I'm not out of place." She smiled. "Not at all. I've been hoping you would." She led him upstairs into a quiet office. It was large but warm, wooden bookshelves, plants, soft light from the windows. "Please sit," she said kindly. Darius sat, still feeling like he didn't belong. Victoria poured him water and sat across from him. "I want to ask you something," she said. "Do you know how rare people like you are?" He looked confused. "People like me?" "Yes. People who help without expecting anything. Who walk through storms quietly and still give others shelter." Darius looked down. "I don't feel special." "You are," she said, "and I want to help you." He was silent. Then he spoke. "Victoria. My daughter. Her name is Hope. She's sick. The hospital says she needs tests I can't afford. I never ask anyone for help. But this time, I don't know what else to do." His voice cracked at the end. He looked away, ashamed. Victoria's heart broke. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "No father should carry that kind of fear alone." Then she stood up and walked to her desk. She opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. She handed it to him. Inside was a job contract. Position: Assistant Vehicle Maintenance Supervisor. Salary: 3x what he was currently making. Full health insurance. Family coverage included. Darius looked up, shocked. I don't understand." Victoria smiled. "You said once that you used to fix cars. My company has a transport fleet. I asked around. We need someone like you. Hardworking, honest, loyal." He couldn't speak. "This isn't charity," she added. "It's an opportunity. You earned it the day you helped me on that road." Tears filled his eyes. "Is this real?" he whispered. She reached out and gently touched his arm. "Very real." That afternoon, Darius picked up Hope from school. She ran into his arms. "Daddy?" He held her longer than usual. His chest felt full, like a storm had passed, and the sun was finally shining. As they walked home, he said, "Guess what?" "What?" "We're going to the doctor tomorrow." Hope's face fell. "Again?" "Yes," he said, "but this time, we're going with insurance." She didn't understand that word, but she saw the joy in his eyes. So she smiled. "Okay, Daddy." That night, for the first time in a long time, Darius didn't worry about tomorrow. Meanwhile, Victoria sat in her office alone. She stared at the photo on her desk, her ex-husband and her at some event long ago. She picked it up, sighed, and placed it face down. Then she looked at the photo on her phone. Darius helping her change the tire. Two very different men. One walked away when life got hard. The other showed up when he had nothing to give, except kindness. She realized something. Maybe this story wasn't just about helping Darius. Maybe he was helping her too. The hospital was quiet. Too quiet. Darius sat in the waiting room, his hands clasped tightly together. His foot tapped the floor nonstop, not from impatience, but from fear. Hope was inside the examination room, getting tests. A nurse had led her in gently, smiling at her, and telling Darius to wait outside. He had waited in many lines in life. Job lines, food lines, bus lines. But this wait felt the longest, because this was the line between hope and heartbreak. The night before, Hope had asked him, "Daddy, are we going to be okay?" Darius had smiled. "We're going to be more than okay." But deep down, he didn't know. The only thing he knew was, he could finally afford the tests. Thanks to Victoria's job offer, he had health insurance now. For the first time in years, he walked into a hospital not feeling ashamed or afraid of the bill. But money couldn't fix everything. And what scared him now was what the test results would say. The door opened. A nurse peeped out. "Mr. Thomas?" Darius stood immediately. "The doctor would like to speak with you," she said gently. He followed her into a small office. There, the doctor sat with a thick file open in front of him. Hope was sitting beside him on a small chair, swinging her feet, coloring. She looked up and smiled. "Daddy, look, I drew the nurse." Darius smiled back. "That's beautiful, baby." But his eyes were on the doctor. The doctor closed the file and took a deep breath. "She's a strong little girl," he said. "Very brave." Darius nodded. "We ran blood tests, x-rays, and a few scans," the doctor continued. "There's something we noticed. Hope has signs of a condition called juvenile anemia. Her body isn't making enough healthy red blood cells." Darius's heart dropped. "Is it serious?" he asked, his voice low. The doctor nodded. "It can be. But the good news is, it's treatable. With the right supplements, diet, and follow-ups, she can live a healthy life." Darius felt a wave of emotion rush through him, relief mixed with fear. "Treatment will take time," the doctor added. "But you brought her early. That made all the difference." Darius looked down at Hope, who was still drawing flowers. Early. He had almost waited too long. He crouched beside her and kissed her forehead. "You're my strong girl." She giggled. "I know." Later that evening, Darius sat on their small sofa while Hope watched cartoons beside him. He stared at the bag of medicine the doctor had given him. Iron tablets, liquid supplements, a list of foods to buy. It was all doable now. Because he had a job. He had help. He had hope. The next morning, Darius called Victoria. "Hello," she answered. "It's Darius," he said. "I just wanted to say thank you." "How's Hope?" she asked immediately. "She'll be okay," he replied. "Because of you." "No," she said softly. "Because of you. You never gave up." There was a pause on the line. Then she added, "Darius, I've been thinking. Would you come to my office again tomorrow? There's something I want to show you." The next day, Darius returned to the glass building. But this time, he didn't feel out of place. He walked with a little more confidence, his shirt clean, his shoes polished. He even brought a picture Hope drew of the two of them standing under a rainbow. Victoria greeted him with a smile. "You look different," she said. "I feel different," he replied. She led him into a large conference room. On the table was a folder. "What's this?" he asked. She opened it slowly. Inside were designs, garage plans, tool layouts, a small office space. "I remembered you once said you dreamed of opening your own repair shop," she said. "Well, I want to invest, not just give you a job. I want to help you build something." Darius stared at the papers, speechless. "You helped me when I was stuck. You didn't know who I was. You didn't care. That kind of heart, it deserves more than just thanks." He sat down slowly. "You really mean this?" "I do," she said, "but only if you're ready." He looked down at the drawings, his eyes filled with tears. "I've been ready my whole life," he whispered. That night, Darius told Hope the news. "Daddy's going to have his own car shop soon." She gasped. "Really? Can I help paint the walls?" He laughed. "Of course." She smiled. "Can we paint it pink?" "We'll talk about it," he said, chuckling. They both laughed. But inside, Darius felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. The old garage smelled like dust and memories. Darius stood in the center of the building, sunlight falling through broken windows. Rusted tools were scattered across a crooked workbench. Cobwebs clung to the corners. A cracked sign hung above the door. But to Darius, it looked like a dream finally waking up. "This is it," Victoria said, walking beside him. "Not much now, but with the right hands?" He turned to her. "It's perfect." Over the next few weeks, everything changed. Painters came in. Walls were scrubbed and repainted. The floor was cleaned and polished. New tools arrived in boxes. A large sign was hung above the entrance. "Hope & Co. Auto Repair." Victoria raised an eyebrow when she saw the name. You named it after her? Darius smiled. She's the reason I never gave up. Victoria smiled too. Then it's the perfect name. Hope visited the garage every evening after school. She had her own little toolbox with pink handles and stickers on it. She would walk around, asking questions like a boss. What's this for, Daddy? That's a torque wrench. Oh, sounds important. She even made a sign for the door that said, Smile, you're at Hope's place. Customers hadn't even arrived yet, but joy was already filling the space. Then came the big day, the grand opening. Darius wore a keen blue shirt and black pants. He borrowed a tie from his neighbor. Victoria brought flowers, balloons, and a ribbon for the ceremony. Hope wore a white dress and held a pair of small scissors. A few people from the community gathered outside. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers who had heard the story. Darius stood beside Hope, his hands shaking a little. He looked around and saw faces, smiling, clapping, believing. Victoria nodded at him. This is your moment. He knelt beside Hope. You ready, boss? She giggled and cut the ribbon. Cheers broke out. Hope & Co. Auto Repair was open. Business started slowly. 1 car the first day, 3 the next week. But people noticed something different about this garage. Darius didn't just fix cars. He treated people with kindness. He explained things clearly, didn't overcharge, and often worked late to help customers in a hurry. Word spread. Soon, cars were lining up. One woman cried when Darius refused to charge her for a tire repair. She had just lost her job. Just pay it forward, he said gently. She whispered, I will. One afternoon, a man walked into the shop. He wore a suit and shiny shoes. Darius wiped his hands on a cloth. Can I help you? The man looked around. I heard this place is run by the guy who helped Victoria Harris on the highway. Darius chuckled. That's me. I work with her company, the man said. We're expanding our vehicle fleet. Would you be interested in handling the regular maintenance contracts? Darius blinked. You're offering a deal? A long-term one, the man replied. We believe in supporting honest business. Darius nodded slowly, still processing the offer. Thank you. That means a lot. After the man left, Darius turned to Hope, who had just walked in with her coloring book. He lifted her into his arms and whispered, We're going to be okay. She smiled. I know, Daddy. One evening, as the sun set behind the garage, Victoria visited again. She leaned against the doorway, watching Darius fix a car with Hope beside him, handing him tools like a little assistant. You look happy, she said. Darius looked up and smiled. I am. I have to confess something, Victoria said, walking closer. Helping you gave me something I didn't expect. What's that? Purpose. Darius paused, surprised. Victoria continued. All these years, I worked in tall buildings and made money. But it never felt like it mattered. You reminded me what real strength looks like. He nodded. We saved each other. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sunset. Then she said, You ever think about speaking, sharing your story? Darius laughed. Me? What would I even say? You'd say the truth, she replied, and people need to hear it. He didn't answer, but the thought stayed with him. Weeks turned to months. Hope grew stronger. Her energy returned. She laughed more, ran more, and asked a million questions every day. Darius added a small corner in the garage with books and toys. Hope called it her office. Customers loved her. One older man said, I came for a break check, stayed for the smiles. It had been 1 year since the garage opened. 1 year since Darius stood in an empty shop with nothing but hope and a borrowed toolbox. Now, the garage was full of life. The walls were covered in photos, smiling customers, thank you notes, drawings by children. The sign outside still read Hope & Co. Auto Repair, but now people in the neighborhood simply called it Hope's Place. Every day, Darius worked with a smile, and every evening, Hope greeted him with hugs, questions, and her newest drawing. She was healthy now, strong, curious, and full of laughter. And Darius, He still remembered the days he couldn't afford medicine, the days he had to choose between food and bus fare. He had come so far, but he had never forgotten where he started. One rainy morning, Darius saw a man walking past the garage. The man was soaked, carrying a plastic bag. His clothes were dirty, his shoes were torn. He looked around nervously, then sat on the curb, shivering. Darius stepped outside. "Hey, man, you okay?" he asked. The man looked up, startled. Yeah, just tired." "Come inside," Darius said gently. "Dry off." The man hesitated. "I thought coffee," Darius added with a smile. That worked. Inside, Darius handed him a towel and a hot cup. The man sipped slowly, his hands shaking. "What's your name?" Darius asked. "Marcus," the man replied. "I'm just between places right now." Darius nodded. He understood that life. "Need work?" he asked. Marcus looked surprised. "You offering?" "I can use another pair of hands," Darius said. "It's not much at first, but it's honest work." Marcus blinked. "Why would you help me?" Darius looked over at Hope, who was painting a sign that read, "Be kind today." He smiled. "Because someone once helped me." Marcus started the next day. He swept floors, cleaned tools, watched how Darius worked. He asked questions and listened carefully. He arrived early and stayed late. He never missed a day. One afternoon, Victoria visited and saw him working. She turned to Darius and smiled. "So now you're paying it forward?" Darius nodded. "It's the only way to keep the story alive." Months passed. Marcus learned fast. Customers liked him. He laughed more. He walked taller. One evening, he handed Darius a folded paper. "What's this?" Darius asked. "My first apartment lease," Marcus said, smiling. "Thanks to you." Darius read the address and grinned. "Looks like you're on your way." Marcus looked serious for a moment. "You gave me a chance when I didn't look like I deserved one. That's not something I'll ever forget." Darius reached out and shook his hand. "You earned it." One Sunday, Darius was invited to speak at a local event, Stories of Change. He stood on stage, nervous, but steady. He told them everything. The night on the road, the woman in the car, the broken wallet, the tired eyes of his daughter, the hospital, the new job, the garage, the second chance. People listened. Some cried. All clapped. Victoria watched from the front row, smiling through tears. After the speech, a young man approached Darius outside. "Sir, my dad left. My mom works 2 jobs. I'm 17. I don't have much, but I want to learn. Can I work with you?" Darius looked at him. He saw himself. "Come by tomorrow," he said softly. "Let's start with changing oil." That night, as Darius closed the garage, Hope sat beside him. "Daddy." "Yes, baby. Why do you help so many people?" He looked at her, smiling. "Because kindness is like a circle," he said. "It always comes back." She thought for a moment. "Like when you helped Miss Victoria, and she helped you." "Exactly." She smiled. "I'm gonna help people too." "You already do," he said, hugging her tight. 1 year ago, he was invisible, a broke father walking in the rain. But now, he was proof that a single act of kindness can change everything. Not just for one person, but for many.